Oh, did you hear that? No?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. So for the project, it's called Aim to Flourish. I'll let me explain what it is. We have a little prompt here, so we're going to explain to you what it is and everything.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Aim2Flourish is a global learning initiative to discover and celebrate untold stories about business innovations for good. So we are using the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a lens to interview businesses and their leaders around the world. We are interested in hearing about good for the world innovations that are also good for business.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, so it's called Aim to Flourish, and basically our professor has us doing a project for a different website where they give prizes out to companies or like people in college that are making the same videos. There's about how many other groups? Like five other groups doing the same thing we're doing with whatever business that they picked. Um, and we chose, I think I talked to you one time about SDGs. So we chose one of the SDGs, that there's 17 of them, and we chose one of them. And ours was no hunger. And I thought it would be perfect to do a business with a restaurant. And I thought it would be perfect to talk to you about it. So to start off, we just want to know about how, well, basically everyone wants to know about how I guess your business was started and just starting from the beginning and the story about it and everything.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Ezel's was started with two childhood friends,
Mhm.
myself and Ezel Stevens. We grew up as best friends in East Texas. And when we were teenagers, we worked at a place called Brown's Fried Chicken in Marshall, Texas.
Mhm.
And that's where the dream began. And Ezel would later go into the Coast Guard. And a year after he left Brown's Fried Chicken and went into the Coast Guard, I went into the Army. And Ezel was dating my sister Faye, who would become his wife. They were childhood sweethearts. He married her right out of high school and started the migration. He was in the Coast Guard here in Seattle.
Oh, okay.
He started the migration from East Texas to Seattle. And he came home and married Faye and brought Faye out to Seattle. They made Seattle their home. And when I left the military, I came out to Seattle. And then one of my brothers, Darnell, came out. Ezel's brother, Samuel, and the five of us are co-founders for Ezel's Famous Chicken. And it started again as a dream with two childhood friends in Marshall, Texas, working at a place called Brown's Fried Chicken. And the rest, as they say, is history.
So you moved it, you guys were at a restaurant first, you and Ezel
Uh-huh.
in Texas, and then you guys, when did you guys start like, I guess, cooking and stuff, and then decided, okay, well, let's make this a business when you came to Seattle? Because I know he moved here before you did.
Right, he did.
Okay.
So actually, when Waylon Brown, we call him Mr. Brown,
Mhm.
decided he wanted to open up a second location. It was in a little town called Atlanta, Texas.
Mhm.
And this was going to be his second of maybe four more restaurants that he was going to open. Well, he asked Ezel to go to Atlanta to help him set that one up and get it up and running, and also train a manager.
Mhm.
And it was during that visit on a weekend that the idea of having his own chicken place was planted with Ezel.
Mhm.
So there was a walkthrough, a final walkthrough between Mr. Brown and Ezel and his new manager, and I was over there also. And on the way out, Mr. Brown looked at this young lady, her name was Jessie, and he says, if there's anything that come up and you don't know what to do, talk to Ezel. And he patted Ezel on the back, and
Mhm.
said, this is your guy, talk to Ezel. And I saw an expression on his face that was just kind of weird. I didn't understand why he looked like that
Mhm.
after getting a nice compliment. And so when they left out, I asked him, if he paid you a nice compliment like that, why was that look on your face? He says, if I know everything, why is she gonna be in charge? That's okay, one day we'll have our own chicken place. Now,
Mhm.
mind you, in East Texas, where we grew up, it was segregated. And there was a lot of racism and discrimination and social inequities and all of that taking place when we grew up as kids. And that was one of those times when it was present in the environment. Being a young African-American man, you're not going to be put in charge of the store. But you're going to bring someone in and you teach them how to do what you know, and they're going to be in charge of you. Right. And that's how Ezell interpreted it. That was why that expression was on his face. So anyway, that to him was a real moment. For me, it was just conversation. But he kept the dream alive. When he would go into the Coast Guard, I'm in the Army, we would talk about it. Oh yeah, you still remember how we cut the bread, how we cooked the chicken and do all of the things that we did, that we learned at Brown's Fried Chicken. He kept that dream alive until we got to Seattle, where he thought Seattle would make a great place to open a restaurant and have a chicken place. And for 5 years, it was referred to as the chicken place. Yeah, one day we're gonna have our own chicken place. And Ezell and Faye purchased that property across from Garfield High School on 23rd and East Jefferson, spent the next 5 years trying to get financing to get it open.
What was the first year you guys were open?
So it was February 1984 when the restaurant opened. And it was a success from day one. Yep, February 3rd, 1984. Wow. Right across the street from Garfield High School. And they had an event going on at Garfield High School at the time. It was called Bubbling Brown Sugar. And that's where they have students from schools all across the county, city. Cleveland High School, Franklin High School, Rainier Beach High School, Roosevelt High School. They had students come over and it was like a dance competition, a dance off. And so we were able to introduce the chicken to people throughout the city because they were having that event the same day we opened on Friday. It was February 3rd, 1984, Friday afternoon.
So it was busy that day.
Very busy.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good start off and I like the story, even though I've heard it a few times, but I love hearing it. But I wanted to also ask you, with that, your story and the experiences that you guys have had, what's one of the high points for your company? Like an experience where you felt more effective with your company, alive, passionate about it? What's a high point for you?
I think, one of the high points would be when Oprah Winfrey tried the chicken. And she enjoyed it so much that it led to Ezell and I going back to Chicago and actually catering for 75 people at Harpo Studios.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a real highlight moment. And it sort of put us on the map because when Oprah mentioned it on air, she actually talked about it on one of her shows. Wow. And the phone just started ringing off the hook. We had people calling us from as far north as Bellingham and as far south as Longview, Washington, and people were driving up to try the chicken because Oprah mentioned it. Yeah, that was one of the highlights.
One of the high points.
A high point. Yeah, that was a high point.
What year was that? How long ago do you think it was?
That was 1989.
Oh, wow.
One time ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but then that would lead to us doing more catering for Oprah. When she would come to town, we would cater to her hotel. When she would have a staff with her, events. When she would have, once she interviewed Michael Jackson in San Diego. And the late Michael Jackson, the late, great Michael Jackson.
Right.
We actually we shipped chicken to San Diego.
Oh, with Michael Jackson and Oprah?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they actually had chicken during that interview.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a highlight.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Well, then.
Think of others.
Yeah, I know. You probably have a lot, right? It's been, what year is it now with the business? How long has this business been out?
38,
38. It's year 38.
twice your age.
Right. Right. I was twice my age. And
Yeah,
if it
38.
started in February 3rd, then it's going to be the 39th one
39.
next year.
Yeah,
Coming
39.
up, kind of.
We're
Yeah.
getting close to 40.
Almost to 40.
Almost
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Okay. So now here's the questions regarding our SDG. This is when it gets a little, it's nitty gritty a little bit. But
The questions are going to get more difficult now, huh?
yeah.
Okay.
So
You need to give me a cheat sheet.
I know, no cheat sheets. Our SDG is no hunger. And on the Aim to Flourish website, it has to do with achieving food security and improve nutrition and promoting sustainable agriculture, all that. But I want to know, like, with your business and everything, what does it come to terms with when it's connected to the community? What is it doing for the community, do you think, in your opinion? And what have you done for the community with this business?
Well, several things come to mind, or several ideas, stories, events,
Mm-hmm.
times. So I would go back to the beginning, right? So when Ezell's first started out
Mm-hmm.
in the community, one of the things that we made a commitment to was the community.
Mm.
And we wanted to invest in the community and give back to the community. One of the things that, as you mentioned, food,
Mm-hmm.
and we're in the food business, we had a policy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't throw food in the garbage, period.
Ooh, perfect. Right.
Any food that was left over, we found a home for it, whether it was like, in the early years, there was an organization called the Central Area Youth Association, CAYA. It was a half a block or block up the street from Ezell's.
Mm-hmm.
We would call someone, they would come down and get the chicken that was left over at night. If they didn't come that night, we would put it in the walk-in so that it wouldn't spoil and it would be good the next day. There was also another organization called CAMP, Central Area Motivation Program. And it was also focused on youth and others in the community that they could come there and get free meals, get shelter, support, that kind of thing. We would call them up and have them come and bring their van and they would pick up chicken.
Mm-hmm.
We also supported organizations like Northwest Harvest, who have fed millions in this state. We used to participate with them at the Bite of Seattle. So we would go down and we would donate the food, they would sell it. And for all of the funds raised, it would go towards feeding the homeless. And so we did that. We partnered with an organization called Union Gospel Mission, and their focus is on homelessness and supporting homeless people. So those are a couple of examples that in the beginning years, you talk about investing in the community and partnering with the community, that Ezell's made a commitment to community. And then just recently, one of the things that, we at Ezell's are excited about, happy about, proud of, is this initiative that we started last year called the Rudd's Rub Initiative. And the Rub Initiative came about when the pandemic hit. There were so many small businesses in the Black community that did not get access to any of the government funding, like the PPP money and grants and all. And I became aware of that.
Yeah.
And knowing how challenging it was for some to get funding, and I knew of at least one business owner that was going to lose his business because of the shelter at home ban that was imposed. And we wrote him a check for services for the next 9 months of the year, that we would just figure out a way to get those services, but we gave him a check in advance so he could pay the payments on his equipment that he used in his business, and make his lease payments so that he wouldn't get evicted and go out of business, which led to an understanding of how many others were in the same predicament, that the shelter at home ban had caused them to lose revenue. They couldn't afford to pay their bills. So out of that was born the RUB initiative, Raising Up Black Businesses, RUBB, the acronym Raising Up Black Businesses. And Ezell's gave out, through the initiative, grants. We gave out 20 grants to 20 small Black-owned businesses. And again, we have again made it a commitment to support and give back to the community. Our 25th anniversary, the theme was, as it takes a village to raise a kid, it takes a community to raise a business. And for that anniversary, we gave out 25 pillar awards, community, to different ones in the community, whether it was organizations like CAMP, Central Area Motivation Program, the head of that organization that was there supporting Ezell's, whether it was the church community, whether it was someone from the finance community, whether it was a principal at a school that we had a relationship with. There were those in the Linden community that were there supporting Ezell's and helping to ensure that Ezell's stayed in business. And they were our village, right? As it takes a village to raise a kid, that community became our village and helped to raise Ezell's up to what it has become today. So we identified with and acknowledged the different pillars in the community by giving out those pillar awards.
Wow. See, I love all of that. So you've been giving back to the community since you guys have started, basically.
Yeah.
That was the first, like you said, that was the first main thing for you guys, is giving back to the community, investing in the community, all of that.
Through different programs. I can give you one more example if you have time, or we can move on.
Go ahead. We can do one more example. I got time.
So Ezell and I used to go up to one of the prisons, Monroe State Prison. Each Martin Luther King weekend, we did it for a few years, that we would cook up box lunches and we would take like 150, 200 8-piece buckets up to the inmates, and we would give them motivational speeches and speak to them about the importance of getting their lives straight and getting, back in the mainstream society, and not only talking to them about the importance of doing it, but also giving them an opportunity that when they get out, call us up. When they're on work release, we give them a job where they could come back and work their way back into mainstream society. And we did that for a few years. Just another opportunity, again, to give back to the community that had embraced us.
Yeah. So then that would lead to my other question, which was like another, what do you think is another sustainable development goal you have within your business? And one of them is about like injustice in communities and stuff like that. So I feel like that would be another one for you, kind of, when you're going to give more jobs to someone who's in prison and everything, which is a big thing that we talk about in our class as well.
Yeah.
So I want you to explain your business innovation. That's a big question. And I want to know what an innovation is. I feel like you could probably teach me what that is. It's a question that we're supposed to ask. And I want to know just as much as why they want to know, because I'm not sure what it is. So if you want to explain to me.
Before I do that, though, I want to back up and close out on the community outreach and what we're doing in the community. We talked about helping the inmates get reacclimated into mainstream society and all that. This year, through the initiative, we hosted what we called the first inaugural Black Business Leadership Conference. It's a conference that the focus was on small Black-owned businesses.
Right.
Bringing them into a space where there were professionals in the room from all aspects of business, whether it was legal, accounting, marketing, social media programs, risk management, insurance, business structures, all this kind of stuff that small business owners need to have access to that information to help them to better position them in the marketplace to be able to grow their businesses and advance their businesses. And it was a successful event. It was the first one. We're looking to make it an annual event. And we had over 150 small business owners from the Black community come and participate. And there was a lot of networking that resulted as a result of that. There was a lot of networking that took place and relationships built and partnerships formed. And we see that as the beginning of something that's going to be very impactful in the community as we move forward. Now to innovation. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, when did you start that? Because I feel like I remember it being brought up. What month was it?
It was August 20th, which is National Black Business Month.
Okay.
National Black Business Month. So we hosted that event August. It was August 20th.
And was it just people from Seattle, or was it Black businesses?
Well, actually, there were people from Seattle, Tacoma, the region here, Puget Sound region, and we actually had people come up from Oregon as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's pretty big then.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we can move on to the business innovation if you want to enlighten me on that, because I'm not sure about it.
Okay. Well, you know, there's a saying that he or she that fails to evolve, fail to exist. Have you heard that before?
I think so.
Evolution happens. And if we fail to evolve, we fail to exist. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So in business, that's very, very true. There are some things that can always remain the same. If you find something that works and works well, you don't want to fix it or break it. You want to keep working.
Exactly.
But as we right now are faced with new challenges, some that are as a result of the pandemic, where it just kind of changed how people do business, how people interact, and so forth and so on. And then there's the transition between the baby boomer generation and this new generation that's coming along, right?
Right.
And business owners like myself, we have to study and understand trends and become innovative in how our business continually evolve. Today, we're looking at one of the meetings that I had today, just so happened to be about innovation, right? And how can we improve our business model by utilizing or incorporating kiosks? I'm sure you guys have been to different places. I know you're a Panera Bread fan, right?
I am a Panera Bread fan, yes.
Panera Bread?
Bread.
Panera Bread. Yeah. And you go in and they have the kiosk there where you can order on the kiosk, or you can go and order. Some Starbucks have kiosks. Yeah, where you can order. And then you young people, Gen Zs and Gen Xs and millennials or what have you, you got these apps that you like to just go online and order. So these also something that, go ahead.
Yeah, she said we hate going up to people, which is very true.
We like doing everything on our phones.
Oh yeah. Right here.
Right.
There you go.
Right, just on our phones.
Yeah. So we're looking at the probabilities of bringing in kiosks for these locations. So when you come in and you want to order that spicy strip meal with the barbecue sauce and the honey mustard and a slice of sweet potato pie, you can go right up to a kiosk and start pressing buttons. And then there's going to be less interaction with humans or people.
Yeah.
And there'll be someone that can fix the order, hand it out. And it's not new because others are already doing it.
Right.
Yep.
Now we have to make sure that we're not left behind and left out on innovation.
Mm.
And there's, certain things that we have to pay attention to
Mm-hmm.
and continually be innovative and
Right.
evolution in business. And so that's one thing today that we're looking at. Something that we looked at 3 years ago that we benefited from greatly when the pandemic hit was partnering with a third-party delivery service.
Oh.
So when the pandemic hit,
Mm-hmm.
we had already partnered with DoorDash. So we were getting online orders being picked up and delivered by DoorDash. And now that people are staying at home and not going out to eat, we had already brought that technology into Ezel's operations, and we benefited greatly from it. So that was another example of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And by going to different conferences, like the one that I go to in Phoenix every year, Scottsdale, it's called the Restaurant Leadership Conference. That's why I was first introduced to DoorDash about 6 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. And it took 3 years before we finally decided to try it. But the concept and the technology and the ideas has been around for a long time.
Oh.
So just like kiosks, I can remember discussions at the leadership conference years ago when people that study trends and evolution and all of that, they talked about this day was coming when it was going to be a labor shortage. And business owners, and especially in the restaurant space, are going to have to find out ways that they can continually do business with less people.
Right.
And right now, in the state of Washington, I think it's the state of Washington, that there's about a 20,000 delta. There's 20,000 less people in the workspace today than it was 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. 20,000 less people.
Yeah, that's looking for jobs in the restaurants and the hotels and the casinos and in this space. And so we have to figure out ways that we can continually stay in business, serve our guests with fewer people. Or we have to look at limiting the hours, limiting the days. And that's also a part of innovation. Sometimes now you may go by, drive up to a Starbucks and you can't go inside. They only have drive-through open.
Right.
Have a closed sign on the door. Well, they're being innovative. They're compromising. So,
True.
and it's not always technology that, innovation does not always represent, or is not always represented by technology. It's just changing how you do things. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at now also is, do we want to start minimizing or reducing our hours of operation? And we're also looking at the kiosks. And this is, again, ways that we're looking at addressing the labor challenges. And then from a supply chain side, you also have to be innovative.
Yeah.
When you can't get the exact items that you need in terms of supplies, then maybe you have to look at sourcing those items from different manufacturers, or changing up the menu somewhat. And so we're looking at all of those different things, and just, again, being innovative as we move forward and utilizing new technology, advancing the technology that exists, creating new partnerships that can help to move things forward. So yes, we're definitely looking at ways to be more innovative. Hopefully that was helpful.
That was helpful. Yeah. Well then, that's kind of the closing for everything. And we basically now, after this, are gonna use this video and make up a whole. We have a whole bunch of questions we have to answer for the project.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you definitely helped us a big time for
Yep.
it. And I think that you are definitely following the sustainable management in
Oh,
your
yeah.
business with
Okay.
other, I mean, you only told us one thing, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other things that there is. But
Yes.
I'm very thankful to be
Yeah.
able to talk to you. We're both excited.
Yep.
She's actually from Hawaii.
Yep.
And I don't know if your first time having Izos was.
I actually DoorDashed Izelle's last October. So
Sounds pretty. Yeah, so it was. She's new to because Ezel's is only based in Seattle.
Right.
Right. So when people ever come here from, especially out of my university, there's people from Hawaii, California. So their first time having it is when they come here. So it was very exciting to
Well,
first
thank you
time.
for sharing that special treat.
yeah.
Spreading the word about the bird.
Right, about the bird.
Yeah.
But thank you so much,
Yes,
Papa.
Papa.
This has been helpful.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
The
You're
last
welcome.
minute, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
You're so welcome, and y'all have a good rest of your evening, and I hope you get good grades on your assignment.
it. Thank you, Papa. I love you
Thank
so much.
you.
Have a good
I
day.
love you too, hon.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.